In the previous video we talked about metabolic rates. Now if you've got high metabolic rates, you're going to need to have an efficient delivery of oxygen to the cell, and so multicellular organisms therefore need an oxygen delivery system such as a cardiovascular system or circulatory system, a system of tubes, something to pump blood through with oxygen in it, and tubes that are going to carry that to the various parts of the body. So circulatory systems in vertebrates. All vertebrates have got what we call a closed circulatory system. That is, the blood is contained in a continuous circuit of blood vessels and it's kept moving with a heart or a muscular pump. In closed systems, you've got a drop in pressure occurs when blood passes through the capillary blood because the narrow tubes offer resistance to the flow of blood. Now, or rather, you've got this high pressure of blood coming out of the heart, and then the pressure starting to drop as it's moving its way through these various blood vessels. Okay, we're going to have a look at different circulatory systems, and the first type we're going to have a look at is what is known as a single circulatory system. And an example of that is found in fish. And it's described as single because the blood just passes through the two-chambered heart and it just passes only once round the circuit. So on this diagram that we've got here, you'll see the flow of blood coming through the heart here and then to the gills to pick up oxygen, and we'll talk about that in the next video. And then from the gills, when the oxygen is picked up, the blood is then travels to all the capillaries. This word here, systemic, just means it's capillaries throughout the fish body, and then it travels back through the heart, and that just happens once. It's a single circuit. If we were to look at the fish heart in a wee bit more detail, so we'll have a look at this diagram here, then the fish heart, it just consists of an atrium, so blood coming through here, and there's a valve between, so here's a valve, and then here into the ventricle, and then from there the blood is pushed out here, so it goes to the gills at high pressure, and then it's delivered to the capillaries at a low pressure. It's a relatively primitive and inefficient system, but it works pretty well if you're a fish. So if we've got a single circulatory system, therefore it seems logical to think that there must be a double circulatory system, and there is. A double circulatory system is called that because the blood passes through the heart twice for each complete circuit of the body. So in other words, the blood is pumped to the lungs and the body both at high pressure, and it's a more efficient system than a single system. So we're going to have a look at some examples of double circulatory systems, and there are different types. The first type is this here, the incomplete double circulatory system. And when we're looking at reptiles and amphibians, they've got these systems, but they're described as incomplete because if you have a wee look at the diagram here, you'll see that there's a left and a right atrium, but there's only one ventricle. So it's described as incomplete because you've not got a separation of the ventricles. So you get some mixing of the oxygenated blood from the lungs and deoxygenated blood from the body, mixing in this area here, so you'll get a bit of mix happening. Now, in amphibians, it's not such a major problem because blood that's returning from the body has actually been partially oxygenated from the skin of the amphibian. And so that helps to overcome some of this problem. With reptiles, although in this diagram here, it doesn't show it, but in reptiles, you actually have a partial septum. That is a partial separation. So you get very little mixing because this little division is here, and it helps to prevent some of the mixing occurring. So that's your incomplete double circulatory system. When it comes to a complete circulatory system, birds and mammals have got complete circulatory systems, and they are complete because the heart has got two ventricles which are completely separated by a septum. So if we have a wee look at a double circulatory system, it looks like this. And you should be familiar with a mammal heart because we had a look at the heart last year at National 5. But you've got the right and the left atrium, and then you've got the right and the left ventricle, and this, you've got this complete separation of the left and the right side of the heart by this area here called the septum. Called a double circulatory system because you've got blood being pumped out to the lungs and then back into the heart, and then you've got blood being, and you've also got blood being pumped out to the body and then back into the heart. We'll talk in more detail about, I've said about the mammals and birds having this double circulatory system. What I haven't talked about is the difference in the respiratory system between mammals and birds, and we'll talk about that in the next video.